Also have her Jupiter there. So her Jupiter and North Node are conjunct at 22 degrees, and 22 degrees is a critical degree, and so is 29. I'm going to get into that later, like I said. Okay, so that's all in the 6th natural house, but the 10th house of the 911 call. And that leads us now to the 7th house, the 7th natural house, which is ruled by Libra, the direction of west. All right, there's a lot here. Okay, so the midpoint, counter midpoint of the randomly chosen suspect or the perpetrator in general when speaking of a horary chart falls very close to the descendant of the natural 7th house ruled by Libra. Now, Libra rules judges, legal matters, the law, beauty, art, music, all kinds of things, fine arts, just beautification in general. And so it's ruled by the planet Venus. Okay, so here we have the midpoint, counter midpoint, like I said, at 2 degrees, falling in the 7th house, 7th natural house. We have the 11th house cusp at 9 degrees of the 911 call falling in the natural 7th house. Okay. In the composite chart, it's at 8 degrees, falling in the natural 11th house, or falling in the 11th house, that is. And over here we have the Mercury and Pluto at 13 and 12 degrees. They are conjunct in the chart of the randomly chosen suspect. Okay. And in the composite chart at 14 degrees, which is conjunct Pluto and Mercury, and the North Node is also conjunct. These are all conjunctions related to the randomly chosen suspect, and they're falling in the natural 7th house, as I said. Now, the 7th house also rules open enemies and court proceedings. All right. And so now we have the sun. That's that circle with the dot in the middle. That's the sun glyph or symbol at 26 degrees Libra. It's falling in the 7th natural house. It's falling in the 11th house of the 911 call, and it's falling in the 8th house of death. Okay. In the, it is. It's falling in the 8th house of death in the composite chart. The composite chart is the planetary positions combined of the missing person and the randomly chosen suspect. So here we've pretty much covered the entire chart, okay, which was our goal. We've been through every house and every sign and every symbol. We've been through the 911 call, the missing person, the randomly chosen suspect, the composites, the fixed stars, the midpoints. Okay, I said I was going to talk about degree theory here, and the 22nd degree being a critical degree. Okay, it's associated with the sign of Capricorn, but there's a more ominous implication regarding the 22nd degree, and it's the to kill or be killed concept, but it has been proven false in so many cases, and so I don't read too much into it, but it has shown up in the charts of some people who were assassinated or whatever, and so I just wanted to put that out there, that it also has not been found in charts of people who were killed. So just throwing that out there. And that's the victim's Jupiter and North Node there at 22 degrees. Virgo, which falls into the 7th house of the composite chart. Okay. Falls into the 7th house of open enemies, legal matters, blah, 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 in Virgo. So here in the natural 1st house, in the sign of Aries, ruled by Mars, we have the Chiron of the randomly chosen suspect here in green at 29 degrees, which is a critical degree. This particular degree is associated with matters that have already taken shape, the feeling that, well, there's no sense in asking the question because the answer is already known, that kind of thing. It's also, Chiron is associated with the wounded healer, and also associated with medicine, music, playing musical instruments, etc. It's where healing occurs, but also where you find your enemies. And it's falling in the second house of the composite chart, and which starts at 11 degrees. And like I said, it's at 29 degrees. So what I was going to point out about that is we have in Aries, Chiron at 29 degrees. In Taurus, we have Jupiter at 28 degrees, and they are both associated with the randomly chosen suspect. Okay, so I've drawn a line from 29 degrees Aries to 28 degrees Taurus, and then I've looked across the street to the sign of Scorpio, and the composite chart has 29 degrees Pluto there. Now, Pluto is the co-ruler of Scorpio and is associated with all kinds of undesirable things like murderers, kidnappers, child molesters, rapists, the underworld, mafia, all of that dark stuff, right? Death, birth, regeneration, and whatnot. And so I've drawn a line from here all the way up to the sign of Scorpio at 29 degrees, right across the street. And then, of course, did the same thing here with Taurus, all right, at 28 degrees, all right. And I've drawn a line. And what that creates, I don't know if you can see it. You can barely see it because it's very faint. That creates something known as a Yod, which is translated the finger of God, and it points to problems and issues. It's kind of like a flashing neon light, so to speak. So what I've attempted to do here is I've gone over it with a bolder, thicker line in purple and red so that you can see more what I'm talking about here. Okay, so we have, like I said, 29 degrees Chiron in Aries, 28 degrees Jupiter in Taurus, and we have the Pluto at 29 degrees right across the street in Scorpio. Now we're going to talk about fixed stars. As I said, the midpoint, counter midpoint of the randomly chosen suspect is 2 degrees Aries and 2 degrees Libra, okay? And it's associated with Difta at 2 degrees Aries, which is an unfortunate association as far as fixed stars go. Now in Aries, in the first natural house, okay, we have Aldebaran at 12 degrees conjunct Chiron at 12 degrees, and that's in red, so that's related to the 911 call, and it represents severe trials, okay? So that's very much in harmony with the situation. Now, with regards to a fixed star at 14 degrees Taurus, it's called Menkar. It's associated with disease, disgrace. It's unfortunate. It's conjunct to the Uranus, okay, of the 911 call at 13 degrees. And it's also conjunct to the counter midpoint / midpoint of the victim, whose midpoint is 16 degrees. So we're working in very close orbs of maybe 2 to 4 degrees at the most, okay? And so I believe that that also reflects what's going on with the situation. Now we're going to talk about the 7th house cusp, which landed at 26 degrees Taurus, okay, for the 911 call that's marked in red. That represents the perpetrator or the randomly chosen suspect. And we have 2 stars here, 2 fixed stars. At 26 degrees, we have Algol, and the association with Algol is sexuality, murder, things along that line, strangulation. And then, so that is a direct conjunction, 26 degrees and 26 degrees. With the randomly chosen suspects, Jupiter at 28 degrees Taurus, we have another fixed star at 29 degrees Taurus, so that's a conjunction. Pleiades is how I'm going to pronounce it, and it's associated with violence. Now we're going to look at the natural third house and the fixed stars that fall there that are conjunct with the North Node and Mercury of the 911 call. They're marked in red. It's associated with the 7th house, which is open enemies, courtrooms, judges, etc. Okay? And Gemini is, of course, ruled by Mercury. It's associated with things like short trips and like grade school, elementary school, that kind of thing, writing instruments. And what we have here is the North Node, which has to do with destiny, at 10 degrees in red there for the 911 call, conjunct 9 degrees. And the name of the star is Aldebaran. It's associated with the Archangel Michael. Okay. Now we have at 17 degrees Mercury from the 911 call conjunct fixed star Rigel at 16 degrees Gemini, and it's associated with technical and artistic ability. Again, all there in the 7th house. The 7th house of the 911 call falls in the 3rd natural house. Now here we are looking at fixed stars that land in the natural 4th house of Cancer, which involves mothers and children, and we know that the mother is the one that made the 911 call, and that is the only implication I'm making there. All right. In the composite chart, it falls in the 5th house. In the 911 chart, it falls in the 8th house, and its natural ruler is, of course, Scorpio, and it's associated with all kinds of bad things. Okay, the fixed stars that fall there are 14 degrees, okay, which is going to be conjunct within an orb of 2 degrees of this Venus here at 16 degrees Cancer. And Venus represents the sign of Libra for one thing, and it's the Venus of the 911 call, and it also represents like I said, the sign of Libra, but also females and the feminine and so on. And so our fixed stars are Sirius, okay, which is associated with wealth, fires, and danger. Also, Canopus at 14 degrees Cancer, which is associated with scandal, okay, fame, wealth, also violence. And then at 18 degrees, which is also conjunct within a 2-degree orb, is Wasat, which is associated with poisons, chemicals, and malevolence. I'm sorry, I have a hard time with that word. But anyway, it's not a good word, okay? It's not a good association. So in the 8th house of death and taxes and debt collectors and murderers and all of that of the 911 call, we have these fixed stars showing up conjunct the ruler of Libra and Taurus, which is Venus. Okay, I need to make an important correction. The counter midpoint for the victim is not 16 degrees Taurus and 16 degrees Scorpio. That was a mistake, so disregard anything I said about that particular point in the chart. I've made the correction, and the victim's sun-moon midpoint is at 20 degrees Capricorn, which puts the counter midpoint at 20 degrees Cancer. Okay, that's going to be important because What that means is that has changed the composite midpoint. Okay, so at 1 or 2 degrees Libra would be the perpetrator's um, midpoint, sun moon midpoint. Okay, and so if the victim's sun moon midpoint is at 20 degrees Capricorn, which it is, then their composite midpoint lands in a very specific and interesting place, which is at 26 degrees Scorpio, which is conjunct or conjoined to the ascendant of the 911 call at 26 degrees Scorpio. So it's an important correction that I needed to make. I'm sorry about that. I am working alone, so I will make a mistake here and there, but I will correct them and give updates as they are made. So far, it's the only mistake I know of that I've made. But that is pretty significant when their composite sun moon midpoints end up on the ascendant of the 911 call at 26 degrees Scorpio.